Welcome to another project, and I'm excited to have you here as we continue building practical and creative ideas that you can apply to your own learning journey. In this project, we are going to create a testimonial slider, which is a very common feature used on modern websites to showcase client feedback or highlight important reviews in an engaging way. As you can see from the final version of the project, we'll design a clean testimonial box, and at the very top, we'll position a profile image that sits neatly in the center and is styled into a perfect circle for a more professional look. Inside this testimonial box, we'll also include the testimonial text itself along with the author's name, giving our design more personality and making it feel authentic and trustworthy. We're going to create and generate these quotes using an AI quote generator. For the profile images, we'll use free, high-quality photos from Unsplash, and later on we'll update both the images and the testimonial text automatically every 10 seconds using JavaScript to make the slider dynamic. So stick around, because in the next section, we'll get started with the HTML structure, which will be the foundation before we move on to styling and adding functionality. Let's begin building our testimonial slider project. To begin, let's open Visual Studio Code. Let's close the Get Started tab first, then go to the File menu and click Open Folder. For this tutorial, I plan to create the project on the desktop, but you can choose any location on your computer. Let's select the desktop by clicking on it. With the desktop selected, we click the New Folder button to create a new one. Let's name the folder Testimonial Slider and then press Enter. Let's click Select Folder to choose our new folder, close the Get Started tab once more, and then create an HTML file in the Explorer section on the left side. Next, right-click in the Explorer panel and select New File. Look over to the right side, where our index.html file appears completely empty. To kick things off with the HTML structure, type an exclamation mark and select the first auto-suggestion that appears. As you can see, we now have a complete HTML5 boilerplate generated. The first line features the doctype declaration, which informs the browser that the page uses the HTML5 version. For our project, we simply include HTML in that declaration. Following the doctype declaration, the main HTML tag appears and wraps both the head and body sections. The lang attribute here specifies the language of the page, and in our case, we have set it to English. Moving forward, we see the head tag that contains the meta tags and the title tag. The shawset attribute sets the character encoding for HTML5 pages, and UTF-8 is the recommended option because it supports nearly all characters and symbols. This ensures that anyone viewing our page will display all characters and symbols correctly without any issues. Moving forward, we encounter a meta tag that instructs Internet Explorer to use its newest rendering engine. Continuing further, we see the viewport meta tag, which guides the browser in resizing the page for various screen sizes. To better view the full line, let's press Alt and C to enable word wrap. You'll notice the content attribute instructs the browser to match the page width to the device's screen size. This setup ensures that even though mobile screens are narrower than desktop ones, our website displays smoothly across various widths and sizes. Continuing with the viewport settings, the initial scale defines the starting zoom level of the page, set to 100% in our example. Following the viewport meta tag, we encounter the title tag. This title tag defines the name that appears in the Browser tab. You can see this title displayed in the Browser tab. To preview the browser directly inside Visual Studio Code, you can use the Live Preview extension that we installed earlier. In this step, right-click on the file and select Show Preview from the Live Preview menu. Observe on the right side our browser preview, which appears completely empty yet shows the default title document. Here, we can update the document title to fit our project. To create more space for editing the index.html file and viewing the browser preview, let's collapse the Explorer panel. In the following step, update the title to Testimonial Slider, our project name, and notice how it appears in the Browser tab. Moving forward to the body section, let's create a container div to hold our testimonial content and name it Testimonial. Let's give this div the class name Testimonial Container. With our Testimonial Container div now in place, let's add an image tag inside it to include a profile image. To find a suitable profile image, we will use a website called Unsplash. Switch over to the desktop and open Google Chrome from there. Type Unsplash into the search bar and press Enter. In the top search result, click on unsplash.com to visit the site. Next, use the search bar on Unsplash and enter user as an example term. Browse the results for profile pictures and select one, such as the image of this man, by clicking it. To grab the URL for this image, simply right-click on it and select Copy Image Address. After copying the URL, we switch back to Visual Studio Code and paste it into the src attribute, which specifies the image source location. Take a look at the browser preview where the image now appears, and for the alt attribute, we add the text user image. In the next step, right after the image, we add a paragraph to hold the testimonial text and give it a class named text. To include sample testimonial text, we can search online for a simple testimonial generator website. Looking at the search results, the top one is Testimonial Generator, com, so we click on it to visit the site, which is an AI-based generator where we simply enter the name of our service or product, such as Apple, and it creates a testimonial. Here we have the generated testimonial, but it appears quite short. In the next step, click the Generate button once more to create another option. This version offers 2 lines, which works well for our needs. Copy the text now, return to Visual Studio Code, and paste it inside the paragraph tag. Scroll down in the browser preview to view the testimonial appearing there. After adding the testimonial text, include an H4 tag with the class username right below it to hold the person's name from the generator. Copy that name, switch back to Visual Studio Code, and paste it inside the tag. With the name in place, we have finished the HTML structure for this project. Moving on to the next part, we will apply CSS to style both the testimonial box and the slider. Following that, JavaScript will enable the slider to advance automatically every 10 seconds. See you soon in the upcoming section. In the previous section, we completed the HTML part of our project. In this section, we will add CSS styles to our project to create an attractive testimonial slider. In the next step, let's create a CSS file by opening the Explorer in the left panel with Ctrl+Shift+E, then right-clicking in the Explorer and selecting New File. Let's name the file style.css and then press Enter to create it. Before we start styling our project with CSS, let's link the new CSS file inside the HTML code. Now let's switch back to the index.html file and add a link tag just below the title tag by typing link and selecting the third auto suggestion for the style sheet. Let's close the Explorer panel now to free up more space for our code editor and browser preview. Let's save the HTML file by pressing Ctrl+S. Then switch to the style.css file to begin styling our project. To begin styling, let's first reduce the size of this image to make it easier to work on the rest of the page. Let's begin by selecting the image using its HTML tag. Since an image appears on the page, we can target it by referencing its tag. To target the image, we simply start by writing img as the selector. Let's set the width to 100 pixels and the height to 200 pixels. This setting provides us with square pictures to select. With the structure in place, we can clearly view the website displaying all testimonials and the names section, ready to proceed with building the project. Let's begin by creating the body section. To begin our HTML setup, we will remove the default spacing around the body element by setting its margin to 0. You will notice that our layout currently has no margins. In the next step, we apply Display Flex to center the items horizontally. We apply Justify Content Center to align the items horizontally in the middle. However, Notice that another div with the class testimonial container matches the body's size exactly, so we see no changes in our browser yet. Moving forward with the HTML structure, let's install that container now. For this testimonial container, let's adjust the width to 500 pixels as an example. Now we see the changes in this preview. Let's adjust the height setting to 300 pixels right here. To make this section stand out clearly, let's apply a background color. Let's set the background color to slate blue. You will notice that this section sits exactly in the middle. You can see the equal margins on both the left and right sides. In the next step, we'll center this section vertically by setting its height to 100% of the viewport height. In addition, we set the Align Items property to center. This adjustment centers the section vertically on the page. To give our text a more elegant look, let's adjust the website's font using the Font Family property. We'll set the font family to cursive for a more elegant text appearance. We have now finished styling the body section. With the body styled, let's continue with the testimonial container. To enhance the container's look, let's add a box shadow and rounded borders. To round the borders, we apply the border radius property. Let's apply a border radius of 10 pixels and add a subtle shadow effect to the container using the box shadow property. The first value sets the horizontal position of the shadow. We set the first one to 0 for no horizontal offset and the second to 4 pixels for the vertical shadow position. You can clearly see this vertical shadow in the preview. The third value controls the blur radius of the shadow. In this step, let's set the blur radius to 8 pixels. You will notice a subtle shade forming around the box. However, this shadow looks a bit too dark and doesn't resemble a real shadow yet. To create a more realistic shadow effect, we need to decrease the transparency level of the color. To adjust the transparency effectively, we can use the RGBA function for setting the color. In this step, let's start writing RGBA to define the color. RGBA stands for red, green, blue, and alpha values. To create a black color, we set the red, green, and blue values to 0. We set the alpha value to 0.3, providing 30% transparency for a subtle effect. To clearly see the full line of code, enable word wrap by pressing Alt+Z. Moving forward, let's set the minimum width to 300 pixels to prevent the container from shrinking too small. Let's adjust it to 400 pixels for a better result. Next, let's add some margin around the box. Actually, let's use padding instead to add some space around the text inside. Let's specify the top and bottom padding to 40 pixels as an example. We'll set the left and right padding to 20 pixels. In addition, let's add a small margin around the container. We'll add a margin of just 5 pixels around the container to ensure some space remains even on smaller screens when the size decreases. This ensures proper spacing across various devices. To improve visibility, let's set the background color to white. In the following step, let's position this image at the center top inside the container. For the image, let's first round it completely by setting the border radius to 50%. In the next step, we will set its position to absolute to place it at the top. To position the image absolute within the testimonial container, we set the container's position to relative. So, we simply adjust the container's position to relative. To center the image horizontally, we set the left property to 50%. However, this setting positions only the left edge of the image at the center point. Notice how the left edge of the image aligns with the center point. To center the image perfectly, we will apply the transform property. To perfectly center the image horizontally, we apply translate x with a -50% value. Next, we will position the image at the top of the container. We position the image by setting its top value to negative, given that the image height stands at 100 pixels. By setting the top value to -50 pixels, half the image's height, we position it perfectly, so half appears above the container. With this setup, the image now occupies the top section of the container. that positions the image perfectly for our design. We see that the container currently has too much height. To adjust the container's height, let's reduce it to 200 pixels. Let's adjust the padding to shift the content downward slightly. This value represents the top padding setting. These values represent the left and right padding. So, let's increase the top padding to 70 pixels and decrease the height to 100 pixels. This adjustment appears perfect for our layout. Let's reduce the size of the name text here. To adjust its size, we target the h4 tag with the username class. So, we append the username selector at the bottom with a dot in front. We set the font size to 12 pixels. Let's adjust the font size to 13 pixels for a finer appearance.
13.
In addition, let's lighten the font weight to make it thinner. Let's set the font weight to 100 for a very light appearance. This gives the text a sleek and elegant look. With these final touches, we have completed the CSS styling for our project. After wrapping up the CSS styles, we'll head to the next section to introduce JavaScript and add interactive features to our project. In the coming section, we'll automatically cycle through the testimonials every 10 seconds, which let us see the next testimonial slide smoothly. That wraps up our CSS styling for now. I will see you in the next section for the JavaScript part of the project. In the previous section, we finished styling our project using CSS. In this part of the tutorial, we will add interactivity to our project using JavaScript. To get started, let's create a new JavaScript file. In this step, press Ctrl plus Shift plus E to open the Explorer panel on the left side. Then right-click inside it and select New File. Let's name the file index.js and press Enter to create it. Before we start writing JavaScript for our project, we need to connect the JavaScript file to our HTML code. Let's begin by closing the Explorer panel on the left side. To close the Explorer panel, simply drag this vertical line toward the left edge. Let's switch back to the index.html file and add a script tag just before the closing body tag. Type SC in the editor and select the second autocomplete option, the one that includes the src attribute. The src attribute specifies the location of the JavaScript file we're linking to. Since both the index.html and index.js files are in the same directory, we simply write index.js as the value. Simply enter index.js as the value for the src attribute. With the script tag added, we are ready to incorporate JavaScript into our project. Let's switch to the index.js file and start by creating an array that holds all the testimonials. To create this array, declare a constant variable and name it testimonials. Let's open an array and create the first object inside it. We'll begin by adding the person's name as the first property. To start, let's copy the details from the first testimonial since we already have that information ready. Let's copy this name from the first testimonial. Let's switch to the index.js file and paste the name right here. Let's enclose the name in double quotes or single quotes to create the string property. Let's add a comma after the name and move on to the next property. We'll add the photo URL as the next property using the one shown here. Let's copy this photo URL, including the double quotes, and paste it right here in the code. To view the entire photo URL clearly, press Alt plus Z to enable word wrap in the editor. Let's finish this property entry by adding a comma right after it. Let's proceed by moving to the next line. Moving on, the next property is the testimonial text. Let's copy the testimonial text from the source and enclose it within double quotes. Simply paste the copied text here and adjust it to fit within the quotes. This setup looks correct for the testimonial text. With the first testimonial complete, let's add the next one. To create the second testimonial, duplicate the first object structure and update the name along with the other details. Let's head back to the testimonial generator website to create additional ones. Let's click the Generate button to create another one. There it is. We now have a second testimonial ready. Now, let's copy this second testimonial to our code. Let's return to Visual Studio Code and the index.js file. For the second testimonial, let's paste this text into the object. For the profile picture, let's search for additional user images. Let's select the square orientation for this image. This selection provides us with a square picture. Let's go ahead and select this square image. We right-click on the image and select Copy Image Address. Let's return to Visual Studio Code and update the photo URL from the previous testimonial with this new one. That update to the photo URL looks good now. The name for this testimonial appears right here as well. It seems we overlooked copying the name from the generator. Let's copy the name from the generator right away. Let's return to Visual Studio Code and paste the name for the second testimonial. With the second testimonial ready, let's create another one. Let's copy the testimonial text once more for the third one. Let's paste this testimonial text directly below the second one. Let's head back to the testimonial generator website. Let's proceed to generate another testimonial. Let's generate another testimonial just like this one. After generating this one, let's copy the testimonial text. Let's return to Visual Studio Code and paste the copied text right here. We also copy the name from the generator and paste it right inside the name. Let's select another image for this testimonial profile. This one looks like a great choice for the profile. After selecting this image, right-click on it and choose the option to copy its address. Let's return to Visual Studio Code and paste the image address right here. 3 testimonials work well to demonstrate the slider, though you can include as many as you prefer. With the array now holding our 3 testimonial objects ready, let's proceed. Moving forward, let's create a function to update the testimonials. Let's begin defining the function named updateTestimonial. In this function, let's retrieve the name from the testimonial. Let's begin by defining a variable for the index. We set the index variable, named idx, to 0, and then destructure the name, photo URL, and text from the current testimonial. We retrieve them using destructuring inside brackets. Within the brackets, we list the name, photo URL, and text to extract them. We assign these extracted values from the testimonials array at the specified index. Notice that we used testimonials without an S for the array name. We need to add the S here to indicate multiple items in the array. Now that we have added the name correctly to indicate the array,
so we have testimonials, and we want the one with the index idx, which is 0 now.
Using JavaScript, we will update the photo, the text, and the name. With that setup in mind, we retrieve those 3 elements. These 3 elements consist of the image tag, the paragraph for the text, and the h4 tag for the name. Specifically, that includes the paragraph for the text, the image tag, and the h4 tag for the name. At this point, we can select an element using the query selector method. Let's start with the first element, which is the image. We declare the image element and set it equal to document.querySelector. The element we're targeting here is the image. In this case, we specify img to target the image element. After selecting the image element, we move on to the text. In the following step, declare the text element by assigning it to document.querySelector. The testimonial text resides in a paragraph element with the class named text. Therefore, we can use .text rather than just paragraph since it targets the specific class and keeps the code clearer for future reference. Moving on to the name element now. In this step, we will define the username element as a variable. Type document.querySelector to select the element. In this case, the username element has a class named username. To target that specific class, we simply write .username right here. With all elements selected properly, we can now update their content. To update the image or text content, we use simple properties like setting the image's src to our photo URL variable. For the text element, we simply set its inner text to the text variable. Moving on to the username element, set its inner text to the name variable. Let me fix this element, which is for the text, not text element. For the username element, we set its inner text to the name variable. In the next step, we call this function right at the top. You won't notice any change right now because we're showing the same details from the first item in the array. To advance through the testimonials, we increment the IDX value and employ the setTimeout method to trigger a function once the timer expires. The setTimeout method sets up a timer and then calls a specified function once the time has passed. In this setup, we specify the function to execute once the timer expires, along with the delay time in milliseconds as the second argument. In this example, we set the delay to 2000 milliseconds, which equals 2 seconds. The first argument is the function we want to execute here. With this implementation, every 2 seconds delivers a fresh testimonial. When you refresh the page, it starts from the beginning again, but once it reaches the end, it stops cycling through. However, we need the slider to reset and loop back to the beginning. To make the slider loop continuously, we can add a condition right here. To create the loop, we add a simple condition. To loop back to the start, check if the index equals 2, then reset it to 0. With this condition added, you'll see the testimonials changing endlessly in the slider. Right now, the testimonials are changing too quickly. Let's adjust the timer to 10,000 milliseconds for smoother transitions. This change creates a smoother viewing experience. And with that, we've successfully completed our project. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and found some useful skills you can add to your toolkit. Remember, every project brings you one step closer to mastering your craft. I can't wait to see you in the next project. Stick around, keep coding, and let's keep building amazing things step by step.